Hello, my lovely Leos. As I'm looking at this spread of cards for you for the week of September 8th, what I'm feeling is what I started feeling before I started shuffling the cards. The phrase that I heard was, are you able to admire and respect who you are while also entertaining the idea that you can change without losing your sense of appreciation for who you are? Because what I feel, Leo, is that while we're talking about change, the possibility of change, which of course is the cornerstone of spiritual growth, self-awareness, change really comes with self-awareness, right? So for the part of the Leo collective I'm speaking to, it's those of you who are wanting to shift into a more intimate connection with your spiritual self, not just in a really practical way. And then there's another group who may be reading this that are not really thinking about it so much in terms of spiritual growth, but who are thinking about it in terms of changing how they relate so that they can have a life that is softer, more fulfilling for them, and less ruled by their need to take care of people. There we go. Now let's start with the first one. It's still, what they're saying is both of them, both of those hinge on the idea that any ego that is strongly defined and, let's say, really entrenched as this is who I am, that often comes with a certain amount of history that's related to not having been secure, maybe perhaps having felt abandoned, or if not abandoned, not necessarily seen, identified, supported in growing a sense of self and feeling confident. And you're being asked to look at what the patterns are in your life around that. It's very possible that it started really on in life with absent parents or critical parents, or any kind of perception that you had as a child that you were not getting what you needed, and that there was a certain insecurity that grew into that grew out of that created this need for you to have a really strong sense of self. The problem is, for any sign, when we create really strong personality identifiers coming out of a place of feeling insecure and feeling insecure and feeling unsafe, it becomes difficult to allow for those things to fade away because they're still in our nervous system and deep in our psyche, really connected to the sense of feeling safe. So, Leos, this is particularly interesting for fixed signs, and for signs that are really strongly anchored in their personality and have a strong sense of ego personality. They're really anchored there. And Leo, you are one of the ones that fit that bill. The thing is, one of the things that can happen with that is you can actually end up creating situations where you end up feeling abandoned or where you abandon yourself. Two things. Important, both of them. When you create, so if you look back at it and you think of it in terms of energy and perpetuation of energy and recreation according to magnetic frequency, if you created this sense of really defended ego structure based out of a sense of having felt abandoned or insecure when you were younger, that can lead you to be rigid in a way where you can be so quick to cut off people that offend your ego, that challenge your ego in any way, again, because of that link to needing to feel secure in that particular ego and not being willing to change, it can lead you to throw the baby out with the bathwater instead of still sometimes negotiating a situation and learning from it. Okay? Now, so they're asking you to look at those patterns too. But then, of course, the crazy thing is what happens is when you do that, when you don't look at what your patterns are, what your situations are, that no, sorry, if you don't look at what your patterns are, if you're not able to look at your situations that are leaving you exhausted, uncomfortable, feeling abandoned, feeling abandoned by people who you then cut out of your life, or feeling abandoned by people who fade away because you're not present there with them, you're not seeing them, you're not willing to grow, then what happens is you can't really grow into a deeper understanding of yourself and where these things come from. And by doing that, what you do is you create a very contained environment for yourself. Now, of course, this will not be for every Leo, and it will not be for every Leo in every area of their lives. Some, in some cases, are going to be able to be very, very self-reflective in certain areas, but not in others, or around certain situations, but not others. But ultimately, it still goes back. They're saying they're being insistent. It still goes back to the willingness to change who you think you are. Whenever you find yourself saying, well, that's just who I am, that is your ego talking. That is the frightened ego that doesn't want to take the chance on maybe becoming different, because the ego, its job is to keep us safe. So if a rigid personality structure or a defended personality structure is part of what our nervous system has done, or our psychology, our psyche has done to keep us safe, that's going to be built into our system, and it's going to feel like a really sane thing to do. Can you look beyond that? Can you say, if I'm in that really defended position, and defended position can be outraged, insulted, wounded, pouty, holding a grudge, any of those things, like, then if that's where you stop, then you don't get to grow beyond that to understand what else is there for you. And it means that you're going to be containing your life and your experiences to a rigid pattern of experience based on a rigid concept of self that you don't want to change. Now, this is a reading that I could be doing for anybody, because I think this is something that is true for pretty much all of us, is that we all have certain areas of our ego where we are, our egos, where we are resistant to seeing that change, because it is very linked to a sense of safety. But I think with Leos, what I'm getting with the part of the Leo collective that I'm reading for is that the reason you're getting this now is because you're being told you can change this pattern. And okay, so why would you want to change this pattern? The reason you would want to change this pattern is so that you can build a richer life, so that you can have deeper friendships, deeper relationships, so that you can feel more secure and not feel as though you constantly have to be giving or doing or taking care of in order to be loved, in order to be safe, in order to avoid abandonment. So that's why it's important. But you're also being told, there you go, childhood prayers. This is very much about you being able to, at this point in your life, look at the fact, by giving up some of these old ideas, you liberate yourself to experience success beyond what you've experienced before. That you're being told you can take a chance on risking success in terms of changing your perceptions, your views, your personalities. For those of whom I'm reading for, your personalities are ready to expand, to contain more of your spiritual self, to be more connected in general to higher frequencies, to that sense of inner self, connection to inner self. and an inner self that really goes way beyond the security of the identification as ego, going really much more deeply into that understanding, that knowing of yourself as a spiritual being. You're being told here you can lean into grace, embody grace. Grace is a smooth, easy, peaceful, and supportive quality. It flows naturally into us and through us. It's an experience of letting the benevolent universe take us through our movements and guide us with a loving hand. Okay? Risk, success, and that they came together. This is about you being ready, Leos, to challenge some of those things in yourselves. To remember, take God with you. Remember that as you are doing this, now what does that mean? Let's be practical. What does that mean, take God with you? That means that as you sit and you question the parts of your personality that are limiting your life in a way that you no longer accept, that you no longer like, that you no longer think is a good idea. As you sit with that knowing and you're not sure how to do it, remember that grace is there for everyone, and remember that there is divine love. Whether you feel it now, whether you know it now or not, whether you have ever experienced it as a sensation in your being, know that that is there. And when you start doubting your ability, remember the benevolent universe, love, divine guidance is there for you, and it's not something that you have to pray down or pray up to get. It's here. It's with you. All right? Look at anything in your childhood that says it's anything less than that. And you're also being asked to please drop what's stressful. Drop whatever you can that's stressful for you. Whoops, I need this one. Drop whatever you... Make a list of the things that are stressing you and knock them off. And choose kindness towards yourself. Today, whenever you have a choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. Under the subject of right, you could also include domineering, sarcastic, smarter than, superior, stronger, witty at someone's expense, or offended. Those are very strong character traits of a defended personality. So you're being asked to look out for those. And when you feel yourself going into that position, choose kind in your mind and in your interactions and with yourself. Because as you move into kind, you move into grace, you move into openness, you move into the ability to see a bigger picture and feel a bigger picture. And you know what, Leo? As you feel a bigger picture, as you allow yourself to lean into the feeling of divine support, it's a lot easier to start letting some of those defended places go in a way where it makes sense. And it's not all at once, it's one thing at a time, but it's the ability to start even questioning whether or not you could. And that's a good thing. Leo, for me, this is really positive for those of you that I'm reading for, because if I'm reading this, it means that some of you have already done it. Some of you are in the process of doing it, and some of you want to do it in a way, but haven't been sure how. So here are some steps, and I leave you with that, Leo. Take care.